Most people think that building wealth is a linear journey. They believe that if they just work harder, save more, and cut out their daily coffee, they will eventually look at their bank account and see financial freedom. But the math of the top 1% operates on a completely different set of rules. The real secret isn't how much you save, it's how fast you can push your capital to a critical tipping point, a point where your money begins to make more money than your actual labor ever could. This is the story of the wealth machine and how the current financial system is actively designed to keep you from finding the key. If you are still relying on a traditional savings account, or if you believe that a standard 401k path is your only option in 2026, you are losing a game you don't even know you're playing. Today, we break down the exact mathematics of compounding, the hidden traps of traditional accumulation, and the architectural blueprint to force your portfolio to multiply by itself.
Let us look at the reality of the modern economy. Inflation is quietly eroding the purchasing power of every single dollar sitting in a conventional bank. When you leave your hard-earned money in a standard account, the bank takes that capital, leverages it, multiplies it through fractional reserve banking, and invests it into high-yield assets. In return, they give you a fraction of a percent in interest. You are effectively financing the bank's wealth while your own capital slowly dies. Alex understood this early on. He spent years working 40 to 60 hours a week, watching his savings grow at a painfully slow pace. He realized that under the current economic paradigm, trading hours for dollars is a trap with a very low ceiling. To break free, you must transition from a laborer to a wealth architect. You need a system that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, completely independent of your physical presence.
The first major obstacle every investor faces is the initial velocity of capital. Getting your portfolio to its first $100,000 is notoriously difficult. It feels like climbing a mountain with a heavy backpack. Why? Because at this stage, your contributions do 90% of the heavy lifting. If you invest $10,000 and earn a 10% return, you only made $1,000. That doesn't change your life. It doesn't pay your mortgage or buy your freedom. It is easy to get discouraged here and give up, falling back into the cycle of consumerism. But this is exactly where the trap closes. The system relies on you getting tired and quitting before the real magic of mathematics takes over. If you don't understand the phase shift that happens later, you will always remain trapped in the loop of immediate gratification. Look at the numbers closely. When your portfolio is small, a market downturn feels devastating because you have to replace that capital with your own physical labor. But once you cross that invisible threshold, the math completely flips. The compounding effect transforms from a slow crawl into an exponential engine. To get there, you must cut out the financial noise and focus heavily on asset velocity. This means prioritizing cash-flowing assets and high-growth index funds rather than speculative assets that promise overnight riches but offer no foundational stability. Alex shifted his entire strategy away from standard savings and began constructing a fortress of diversified assets. He stopped looking at money as a tool for buying things and started viewing every single dollar as a financial soldier whose only job is to go out and capture more dollars. This brings us to the core mechanism of the wealth machine, the automated distribution system. Most people try to manage their investments manually. They look at the market daily, they read terrifying headlines, and they make emotional decisions based on fear or greed. This behavior destroys long-term returns. The top 1% don't trade. They build systems. They automate their inputs so that a percentage of every dollar they earn is instantly routed into predetermined investment vehicles before they even see it. This removes human psychology from the equation. When the market dips, the system buys more shares at a discount. When the market rises, the system accumulates value. It is a relentless, unemotional process that exploits market volatility to its own advantage, turning chaos into predictable growth. Let's examine the phenomenon of the critical tipping point. Imagine a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it is small, and you have to manually push it to keep it moving. It picks up a few flakes of snow with every rotation. This is your portfolio under $100,000. But as it keeps rolling, the surface area grows exponentially. Suddenly, the snowball is moving under its own gravity. It is accumulating more snow in a single rotation than it did during its entire first month. In the financial world, this happens when your portfolio hits a size where a standard 5% market movement generates more income than your monthly salary. When you reach this stage, your physical labor becomes entirely optional. The portfolio has achieved escape velocity, breaking free from the gravitational pull of inflation and daily expenses.
But getting there requires navigating the hidden loops that banks use to trap the middle class. Consider the credit system. The average consumer uses credit to purchase depreciating assets like luxury cars, electronics, and expensive clothes. They tie up their future income in high-interest debt, ensuring they will have to work for the next 30 years just to stay even. The wealth architect uses credit completely differently. They use it as arbitrage. They borrow capital at low interest rates to acquire assets that yield a higher return than the cost of the debt. This creates a positive spread, allowing them to use the bank's own money to accelerate their journey toward the tipping point. It is the exact same strategy the banks use against you turned completely on its head. We must also address the massive shift occurring in retirement structures right now. In 2026, relying solely on a traditional corporate retirement plan is a high-risk gamble. Regulatory changes, tax adjustments, and shifting economic policies mean that the rules of the 401k and traditional pension systems are constantly in flux. Governments and institutions are searching for capital to fund massive deficits, and your locked-up retirement funds are an incredibly attractive target. If your money is tied up in a system where you cannot touch it without heavy penalties until you are 65, you lack agility. You cannot pivot when the economic landscape shifts. A true wealth machine requires liquidity and control. You must build parallel streams of capital that you own completely outside the restrictive walls of traditional institutional plans. To maximize capital velocity, you must understand the difference between active income, passive income, and systemic income. Active income is your salary. It requires your time. Passive income is often a myth sold in online courses. Very few things are truly passive without massive initial capital. Systemic income, however, is real. It is an interconnected web of assets that feed into each other. For example, dividends from your equity portfolio feed into a real estate fund, which generates rental income, which is then used to acquire more equities. The system becomes self-sustaining and self-funding. It becomes a closed-loop ecosystem where no capital escapes, and every dividend or yield payment is automatically recycled to purchase more productive assets. As your portfolio expands, you will encounter the psychological test of wealth accumulation. When people start seeing significant balances in their investment accounts, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, the temptation to consume rises dramatically. Lifestyle creep is the silent killer of financial freedom. People look at their accounts and say, "I am rich. I can afford that new vehicle or that luxury vacation." They pull capital out of the engine right before it reaches escape velocity. This resets the clock. Every dollar you take out of your portfolio during the early compounding phase is not just a dollar lost today, it is $10 or $20 of future systemic income destroyed. You must maintain structural discipline and keep the machine completely intact until the compounding engine is fully self-sufficient. Let's look at the mathematical velocity of asset accumulation. If you maintain a disciplined system, the time it takes to go from $0 to $100,000 is often longer than the time it takes to go from $100,000 to $300,000. And the jump from $300,000 to $1 million can happen in a fraction of that time. The curve is non-linear. This is the truth that the financial elite understand, and it is why they appear to get rich so much faster than everyone else. They aren't working 10 times harder. Their system is simply operating on the steep vertical part of the exponential curve. Your entire financial goal should be to endure the flat, boring, horizontal part of the curve as quickly as possible without losing focus.
Now, let's talk about the specific architecture of asset allocation in the current economic climate. A robust wealth machine cannot rely on a single asset class. It requires a balanced combination of high liquidity equities, inflation-protected real estate, and fixed income instruments arranged in a risk-mitigated matrix. This ensures that no matter what the Federal Reserve does with interest rates, and no matter how volatile the global markets become, some part of your machine is always capitalizing on the environment. Alex carefully mapped his portfolio allocations on his digital tablet, adjusting the levers to maximize efficiency while completely eliminating the risk of catastrophic failure. Protection of principal is just as important as the velocity of growth. Once your wealth machine is operational, your relationship with time undergoes a profound transformation. In the traditional model, time is money. You trade an hour of your life for a fixed amount of currency. This is a losing equation because your time is finite and constantly running out. In the systemic model, your money buys back your time. Every asset you acquire adds minutes, hours, and days of complete freedom to your future life. You no longer work because an employer commands it. You work because a project inspires you. You regain absolute sovereignty over your schedule, your location, and your creative energy. This is the ultimate objective of the wealth machine. Not a lifestyle of mindless luxury, but the total reclamation of human freedom. Look out at the modern landscape. The people who fail to build these systems are being left behind at an accelerating pace. The wealth gap is not widening because of a lack of effort. It is widening because of a lack of financial leverage. Those who own the assets profit from the technological and structural transformations of the economy, while those who only own their labor find themselves constantly running faster just to stay in the same place. The choice before you is binary. You can continue to participate in the traditional system as a consumer and a source of leverage for others, or you can step back, assume the role of an architect, and build your own sovereign financial machine. The blueprint is right here in front of you. The mathematics are absolute and completely indifferent to your feelings, your background, or your current circumstances. The system works if you build it correctly and have the discipline to let it run. Stop trading your life away for a currency that is actively being devalued by the entities that control it. Take control of your capital, automate your trajectory, and force your portfolio into the exponential phase. The tipping point is waiting for you, but you have to make the conscious decision to build the engine that will take you there.